Hey YouTube, coming at you with another Beyond the Hype. This one looking at two buff Pokemon that got three buffs overall. So Walrein and Sealeo. Powder Snow got buffed from 5 to 6, and then Icicle Spear got buffed from 65 to 70 damage here. So with that, both rise in the rankings. Sealeo up to 7 as the Shadow, 9 as the non-Shadow. I used the non-Shadow. I actually did not. I thought I had a Shadow Sealeo. I do not. I have Shadow Walrein. No Shadow Sealeo. What makes Sealeo strong? It's got pretty good like lower attack, medium defense, really high stamina with your water ice typing. Although the resistances to weaknesses is not great by any means, but when you look at the weaknesses of electric fighting, grass, and rock, not a lot of grass in the meta. You are also have ice yourself, so you can do okay there. Electric just got nerfed. There's only a couple fighters, and then rock you do need to watch out for is what I would build against. But there's a lot of water in the meta, so being able to resist that is nice. And then obviously there's a lot of ground in the meta, which you will hit super effective against. So stats are nice. Stats are nice. Typing is decent. Powder Snow got the buff, right? So now you're doing 3.6 damage as opposed to 3. And you have Body Slam and Surf. 45 for 90 on the Surf, 35 for 55 on the Body Slam. So what I found, I used the non-Shadow because like I said, that's what I had. What I found on the non-Shadow was, Powder Snow and Surf itself is a really nice combo. And for the most part, depending on how bulky the Pokemon is, 2 Surfs with some Powder Snows, like either the second Surf and then it's KO'd, or like the second Surf and a few more Powder Snows, for the most part, did well against most Pokemon. Where you kind of struggle is if you are against a fellow bulky Pokemon, then 2 Surfs do not take out, and then you need to throw a third Body Slam. I also found that Body Slam is actually quite useless, which I've said multiple times. I've mentioned that on Gastrodon multiple times and stuff like that. Non-stat Body Slam is not a good move. So if you are against a water Pokemon and you are limited to Body Slam, it feels like a bad matchup. And I think that's why, in my opinion, the Shadow is ranked higher, because you already have enough bulk already, right, with this high stamina. So giving up a bit of defense is not too bad. When you increase those Powder Snows to 4.32, obviously Surf damage was 108. So now all of a sudden, between the Powder Snow buff and everything else just going up in damage, you can realistically go Surf Body Slam on most things as opposed to having to go double Surf. And if you get caught in a bad matchup with water Pokemon, all of a sudden, like, instead of just throwing 55 damage, which is nothing, now you're getting to 66, so it doesn't feel like you're as far behind. So I think that's why the Shadow's better, but you can use the non-Shadow if you need to. Walrein jumps up to 52. The Shadow is 109. I use the non-Shadow just because it was ranked higher. The problem with Walrein, so same typing, similar-ish stats, and just a little slightly less defense than Sealeo. Same typing though. Same Powder Snow. The difference is you have an Ice move and Icicle Spear. Icicle Spear in itself is, again, a decent move coming at 10s. 84. 84 kind of puts you in no man's land, right? Because it's one of those things where at the non-Shadow, it's going to be tough at times to take out, unless it's like any sort of bulky, medium bulk to really bulky Pokemon is not going to be taken out in 2 Icicle Spears. So with that 84 damage, you need to throw a third. At the same time, where Sealeo has its strength is being able to throw Surf in neutral situations. If Icicle Spear is resisted on waters, on steels, that you need to go Earthquake, it takes 18 turns to get to the first Earthquake and then 16 after. And the stats on Earthquake are like, it's a 110 damage move, which is fine, but not for 65 energy, right? So you finally get to an 18 turn move and you're only outputting 110 damage. The damage per energy is not great. It takes for a while to get there. If they actually call it correctly, if it's a steel and they shield up the Earthquake, that puts you in just like a terrible matchup. So that's why I think the Walrein is much lower than the Sealeo. So I used both. Used Stunfisk, and I think the reason that I used Stunfisk was I was wanting something that could deal with rock the most. So I put in a ground Pokemon with, and Stunfisk was one of the best ground Pokemon in the meta. You are triple weak to grass. on this team and you don't have an amazing answer for fighter. So like maybe you want to run it with like a flyer instead on the lead. I think flyer Sealeo Walrein would probably play better than it did with Stunfisk. But let's take a look at some battles. Stunfisk lead into Guzzlord. Sealeo is a safe swap. Taking that first Brutal Swing, see how it goes, and immediately hit with the Tentacruel. So I'm already I already have like 4 or 5 Powder Snow, so that's okay. And it's a Shadow Trevenant. So, a little Glacier there where maybe a third Body Slam takes out, but it's, again, going to take 3 Body Slams. Whereas if this was non-water Pokemon, it would just take 2 Surfs. They're going to get to a move. If it's a Sludge Wave, I'm going to be taken out. If it's a Payback, I'm going to be taken out. So that's sort of the limitations of Sealeo. When you get in those water matchups and you're forced to throw non-stab Body Slams, you're just not, it's going to be tough for you to overcome. They decide to give up Switch and go into Ludicolo. So Walrein can now align on the Dragon. Ludicolo is half grass, but it is half water, so these electrics are neutral. So just spamming these electrics on Stunfisk. Ludicolo, I'm going to cover probably in my next video this afternoon. Definitely has some bulk and can take these charge moves. It's already taken 2 discharged very easily. Powder Snows, because they got buffed, is now adding up. I'm worried about the Energy Ball, so I will shield this. And they eventually get into bad timing on my part, but eventually get into Guzzlord. I'm at 2 Icicle Spears. So there's 1 shield. Here comes the second shield, or else this will take out. Walrein, again, not as bulky as Sealeo, but still pretty good. So I will be able to take this Brutal Swing, no problem. They're going to have to throw a second pretty close after the first here. And I do happen to get to the move right before. This will take out Tentacruel comes in. I snipe with the Stunfisk that still has the discharge loaded. So this will take that out. Ludicolo comes in, takes me out, and it's now going to be a race here, but I'm going to lose that race. Okay. Blaziken, with a neutral Ember and moves, like hard-hitting moves, would be a little tough if they wanted to start throwing Blast Burns and stuff, but Mud Bomb is super effective, so they do get out. I guess it would be a better matchup for me. Try to catch like a Shadow Ball type thing. Rollout is resisted on Stunfisk, so what I did there was I just took all the resisted rollouts on Stunfisk and then tried to take the charge move on Sealeo. Getting to that Surf here, they already at 50%, so not quite enough because Licky is bulky. I was trying to fast move and they were trying to fast move, and in doing so, I should have got the Body Slam off. They do go straight Earthquake, so Earthquake Shadow Ball. Kind of a unique moveset on Licky here. Body Slam is going to take them out. I feel like I can just bait here. Yeah, I was about to say I was going to bait if I could get to it, but they do throw it to take me out before I do. Stunfist is back to 2 moves already, so here comes the first Mud Bomb. It is super effective, likely to grab a shield immediately. And I don't know what my opponents... If I remember, I truly labeled this WTF because my opponent already is at like 2 moves, and they let me get to a 3rd Mud Bomb to take him out before they throw any other moves. So I don't know what they're doing. Maybe lost count, but even so, like, throw a move, my man. Okay, Marowak lead, instant swap into Sealeo. They're staying in, and they eventually get in with Corviknight. So pretty okay matchup for me. Powder Snow is neutral, Surf is neutral. As you can see, because they took all the Powder Snow damage on the lead Pokemon there, it's still going to take over 2 Surfs plus to take out this Corviknight. But you will live a payback because you got some bulk. I do shield. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. You can shield if you want. Don't know if they were going to get to a second payback, so I decided to just throw the Body Slam to take this out. do take it out. Out comes the Marowak. I won't live a Rock Slide because that's super effective, but I'll probably live a Bone Club here. And I do live a Bone Club. One in throw, thought I could maybe get to a Surf, but I can't, so just the Body Slam, but may scare them into shielding anyways, and it does. Now I have the Walrein alignment. Do need to be worried about the Rock Slide here, and it's probably one that I will shield. And they try to catch on a Dunsparce. And this is, again, where the non-Shadow is just like put you in no man's land. It would take 3 Icicle Spears to take out here, right? That did about 35-40%. Powder Snows aren't going to add up enough, so it kind of puts you in no man's land that you have to throw a third move. That was the initial. So Walrein, we got to go over history here, which is fine. Again, I'm not early seasons. I'm not too worried about like the battles, like playing the battles. You don't really need to worry about ELO in anything this season. So it's more important to know about the Pokemon themselves, and I like to do the history of the Pokemon. Walrein was, I've gone over on this channel multiple times. There's always been 3 to 4 Pokemon that are extremely, extremely meta. It's been that way since season 1. You know, season 1 was Skarmory, Swampert, Umbreon, and then one of the earliest iterations was Walrein, Trevenant, Registeel. And Walrein bursted onto the scene with this exact move set, and it's because at the time you had the Powder Snow Icicle Spear that could take out the Trevenant. Not a lot of electrics at the time, not a lot of fighters at the time. Like Medi wasn't that meta relevant yet, and you had the Earthquake that can hit Registeel. What happened is Walrein ended up getting, I think, maybe a triple nerf. Icicle Spear for sure got nerfed, and it took it down. I think Earthquake got nerfed at a later date, and I think Powder Snow eventually got nerfed at one point, but now it's rebuffed. I'm not positive about that one, but Icicle Spear and Earthquake for sure got nerfed. So it became borderline unusable. During its first round, before the nerf, the Shadow version came out. And what people found with the Shadow version is basically what I have explained a few times here to you. The non-Shadow version with the Icicle Spears, we'll give it at this damage because I think this is what the damage was back in the day. The non-Shadow Icicle Spear does 84 damage. But the Shadow version does 100 damage. And 100 damage is that sort of benchmark that I've mentioned multiple times. When you're throwing 100 damage at about 10 turns, you're almost guaranteed to take out your opponent in 2 moves. Whereas the non-Shadow it takes 3 moves to take it out. So a lot of people started using the Shadow Walrein because they kind of recognized that the Powder Snow Icicle Spear would take out in 2. So it is way lower in the rankings, and I'm just going to do it behind the scene here just to see the sort of difference in the win-loss record here. Because I'm kind of interested to see, because that logic still holds today. The Shadow Walrein will likely be able to take out, in some cases, 2 where the non-Shadow does not. So if you put it in, the actual difference in win-losses is 1. Your average is 10 lower, but it's a 1 more loss for the Shadow Walrein compared to the non-Shadow. The Shadow Walrein picks up Azumarill, Credilli, Dusknoir, Feraligatr, Sableye, Talonflame, but then you lose Doublade, Dunsparce, Empoleon, Greninja, Lickilicky, Togekiss, and Wigglytuff. So depending on what you want to cover, I would argue there's maybe more meta-relevant Pokemon in the first list there. Picking up Azumarill, Credilli, Dusknoir, Feraligatr, Sableye, Talonflame seems like pretty nice pickups. You know, I think there may be more Dunsparce this season. I just used Dunsparce as a safe swap on that one team coming up. But like Greninja and Lickilicky and Togekiss with more ice Pokemon. And even in that matchup, you're probably going to be okay if you have one Powder Snow advantage, because then you're just going to outpace there. Wigglytuff, you just may get out Charmed and Swift, but even that's just is a pretty close loss. So there's an argument that you should maybe use the Shadow Walrein even though it is lower, strictly because you will be able to start taking out into Icicle Spears as opposed to not. And like I said, the problem with Walrein, if you're going to use it, is if Icicle Spear is resisted, you're pretty much screwed anyways, because you need to land the Earthquake, and if they shield properly, you put yourself in a bad spot. So if you're truly just relying on your Icicle Spear anyways as your sort of main move to win matchups, might as well just go with something that can take out in 2, even though you're going to give up a little bit of bulk, right? And with that, I lost by like 1 HP here, because if I would have taken it out with more damage. So I don't know. Those are just sort of early thoughts on Walrein. I don't think Walrein is a must use. I think Sealeo is probably going to be on a lot of teams. It felt safe. In general, I used that as a safe swap. If they don't have an immediate answer for it, like if they don't have like a water Pokemon that resists the Powder Snow and Surf, you're in a pretty good situation if you get like a little bit of advantage, just because Surf is like a decent move. And again, the arguments for the Shadow mean you can probably just go Surf Body Slam from the Shadow version, as opposed to here where you kind of have to probably go double Surf no matter what. But yeah, definitely one worth using. Walrein, I think it's going to be a little more niche. So yeah, we'll cover a few more battles here, and then go shoot another video. So Body Slam against a Azumarill. Again, this is where it's tough, right? That Body Slam did what? Maybe 15%. So you're going to need to spam like 5 or 6 in this matchup, as opposed to the body. Whereas like 2 player-ups are going to take you out anyways. So might as well just have that extra damage. They come back in Dunsparce. Has super effective drill run. Do let it go. What am I going to do? 2 shield Walrein here. Oh, this was actually a mistake. I was just not focusing when I was playing. I wanted to keep that energy banked and come in Walrein and just Powder Snow down. So I would have had these moves banked and then Powder Snow advantage on Walrein. But unfortunately, I did not do that. And now Talonflame comes in. Talonflame will be able to live this move. Can I live its move? Probably, but so this is what I was talking about in my other video. You did not see the animation, but you did see the damage register. So I think maybe like one didn't show, but maybe they lagged one and then one didn't show or something like that, because they are at another move here and the damage registered, so that they definitely got some energy there. Trying to get to the Earthquake on this thing when you can't get to the Earthquake because you just get outpaced, put you in a bad spot. Probably should have thrown Icicle Spear, hoping I can get to the Earthquake. But again, that Body Slam's not going to do enough anyways. Quagsire, terrible lead. Going to go Sealeo to get hit with a Charger Bug. Okay, not much you can do here. I have Stunfisk. I'll have to try and run with Walrein in the back here, but not looking great. Do chip with Surf to take it to the yellow. Will shield up 1. But this is where if you had the Shadow, you could take it out with Body Slam, whereas you're going to see now, not only do I have burned a shield already, but I'm not going to take it with Body Slam. So now I just burned a shield and I'm going to lose Switch. And that's not the situation you want to be in. So lost Switch, lost shields. Thundershock there. In the back is a Sand Slash, and much like I said, when you're against a Steel and that Powder Snow is resisted and the Icicle Spear is resisted, and you have to rely on the Earthquake, put you in a tricky situation. If I remember, I actually do land the Earthquake here, but you know, damage is done. They still have Stunfisk, my Stunfisk aligned on their Quagsire, and a second drill run would basically take me out, so I end up shielding. They have the Mud Bomb on the Quagsire. So go from there. Couple more battles and then call this video. It's the first week of the season is always a rush to put out as many videos as you can, so you can do these beyond the hypes or first looks, and then we'll slow down a bit and not go as crazy. Yeah, I don't really have too much else to say about these Pokemon. I went over the sort of meta in my other video, so if you missed that one or didn't stay around to the to the timing of it, I basically said, will Sealeo be out there? Yes. Will ice dominate as much as I thought it would? Probably not. I think there will be some ice Pokemon, but I don't think they'll be as dominant as I thought, which means I don't think ground will be as nerfed as I thought it would. Out comes a Dedenne. Clearly a decent amount of electrics, and I can't tell whether that's like an overcompensation for the way that all these water ice Pokemon are coming out and the water Pokemon being stronger because the ice is coming out. Like, I ran this team and we've already seen 2 or 3 Chargebugs and now a Dedenne, right? So electric seems to be popping back up, and again, electric popping back up just makes ground more useful. Getting into the Walrein here, gonna shield up a potential Power Gem. It is just a foul play, and in the back is a Talonflame, so we're gonna instant swap, align it on this Stunfisk here. You could take any charge move. They do go Brave Bird, which does chip quite a lot, but I'm already almost at 2 moves here, so this one will take out. They may just let it go and try to shield the Sableye. I look like I was trying to throw Discharge there. Throw Mud Bomb. They're both the same energy, and Mud Bomb is just a better move. But now this is just where Walrein does decent. It's got some bulk, so I can take this foul play with ease. You spam at 10s, and since it's a Shadow Sableye, which takes a lot of damage, obviously one is going to take it out, and just the spamminess of this thing. Here comes the second move, third move soon after here to take this out. Okay. Stunfisk into Empoleon. So good lead. Metal Sound is resisted. Thundershock super effective. Just Charge is going to outpace. They tried to make a catch on an Annihilape, and as you're seeing with this team, I don't have a good answer for Annihilape, so I need to just stay in this matchup and basically spam as much as I can. On the back end here, I have a Walrein that needs to get to Earthquake, and then resisted everything on Sealeo. So basically, chip this low enough that I can Powder Snow down, while saving some energy on the Stunfisk that I can throw some moves on the Empoleon. They do get to a second move. I was worried that Aretris will take me out, so I do end up shielding. Empoleon is glassy enough that these Surfs will chip, so do chip it to the yellow. They're going to have to throw, so I'm going to chip it to the red. So they do throw. They're probably close to a second move, which puts me in a pretty tricky spot to overcome this. So again, I don't love this team. And again, I don't know. I've mentioned multiple times about these ABB style teams. Sealeo Walrein, Pharaoh Toucanon. Could they work in theory? Probably if you pair it with a proper A Pokemon on the lead. I don't like using these types of teams. I find balanced teams way easier to run and just generally more successful. You know, I think ABB style teams work best in limited metas where there's only like one answer to Sealeo Walrein. So you pull that one answer out, and then generally your other one will roam free. When you put it in Open Great League, I think there's too many options to beat this, right? I think there is not only Pokemon like Empoleon, which can resist Sealeo, then you have a bunch of fighters, and then you have a bunch of steals, which will cause some of these a bit of problems if you don't land the Earthquake on Walrein. Then you got a bunch of the electrics coming out. So I don't love ABB style teams, but this is more just kind of testing it out to see how it feels. Feels like Sealeo's good. Feels like Walrein still suffers a bit, even though Icicle Spear and Powder Snow are both buffed. Feels like it's a little tough to take out Pokemon with those two, with that combo in the like one shield. Like landing 2 Icicle Spears seems like it's tough to take out your opponent. So that's maybe where the Shadow's better. Anyways, that is it. Let me know your thoughts if you use Sealeo, and I will see you guys in the next one.